Yes, welcome to the No Stay Project here, live from my YouTube channel and streaming, of course, originating on LRN.FM, the Liberty Radio Network. And it is November 17th, 2018. Glad to be with you here. If you want to join me on the big show, you may do so at 218-632-9399, 218-632-9399. The passcode is 2020 with the pound sign, and it's also in the show notes that you can see there if you're listening to the stream on YouTube. And that's what's great, is not only can you get the LRN stream pretty much anywhere with your phone, but if you can use your phone to listen anywhere, because you can just get the YouTube stream. So, again, it's 218-632-9399, 218-632-9399. You want to join me on the big show talking about anarchy, getting to a voluntary society, government abuse, and, of course, defending yourself in court. If you have a bureaucratic attack and want to learn how to effectively defend yourself in court, you came to the right place. And if you need evidence, which is good, be a skeptic. There's a lot of people talking about how they can get tickets and whatnot thrown out. A lot of bull, an awful lot of BS there today. Just go to markstevens.net, and there is a success stories link, which I know I have another success story that I need to get posted, but it's been a busy week. So I will try to do a screen recording of that after the big show today. But a lot of evidence, a lot of documentary proof that a lot of tickets, assessments, and whatnot and drug charges have been tossed out. And, of course, tax assessments. We've done that we've done that in the United States, Canada, Australia, New Zealand. And in England, we even had a tax case thrown out in Germany, though I don't have the proof of that. And also Ireland. So check that out, because you can effectively defend yourself without a lawyer. You don't have to mortgage your house. Well, if you're in a murder charge, yeah, you're probably going to have to. But when it comes to the overwhelming majority of code violations that they're giving you tickets for and are fighting us for, then, yeah, we do pretty well. And I have to thank, of course, Christopher in California for his continued support of the show. Really do appreciate it, and appreciate the support we get from everybody. But this show, and probably the next couple of shows, is going to be brought to you by Christopher, and it is appreciated. If you'd like to help support the show, you can do so at markstevens.net. One of the things I had a couple more other ideas regarding the title of the big show today. Can we actually hold, to some degree anyway, bureaucrats, particularly cops, prosecutors, and judges, who are some of the worst offenders out there? They're IRS agents, obviously tax agents fall into that category. Can we do anything to help hold them accountable? Because if you go to bad cop, no donut, it is just the stuff of nightmares when you see what these cops are doing and getting away with it. So apparently there was somebody, Tawan Boyd, and it was in Baltimore, called the cops. That was the big mistake right there. I hate to blame the victim, but it's just here. He called the police because of a break-in. Yes, he's black. So he calls the police about a break-in, and they see a black man. I don't have all the details. There are very few details here. They beat the hell out of him. They beat him unconscious, and he wound up dying in the hospital later. Never call the cops. If you are not a rich white person, or just a rich person in general, I guess even black, was it the Dave Chappelle routine? Or, well, this Negro went and he put pictures of his family in this house before he robbed it. Basically, if you're not a rich person, never call the cops. Never call the cops. It's terrible. So what can we do? They get away with it. Just like the one with Jamel Robertson that I reported last week. Black security guard saved, how many people from a mass shooting and winds up getting shot himself. What's going to happen? Very few times cops are ever held accountable. And if they are fired, they just go to another town. Like the animal who shot and killed Tamir Rice. Yeah, he lost his job, but he's working for another police department, and so not that far away. So what do? Is there anything we can do to hold these people accountable as we're trying to move into a voluntary, stateless, or governmentless society? And I've mentioned on the show, and I want to keep doing this because the more you talk about it, the more ideas you get to kind of help tighten that up. Obviously, one of the big ones is judges and prosecutors. Absolutely, just what they have got to be stripped of their absolute immunity. It's got to be stripped of that. It can't be one of these things where they, like it is now, where a judge can start with jurisdiction, not that could ever be proven, but let's just say for sake of argument, they start with jurisdiction, but then they act in excess of their jurisdiction. And for that, and for acting maliciously, even if you've got a prosecutor that's acting maliciously, absolutely immune. No, they have to be stripped of that. They have to be stripped of that. You have to lower see, that's the whole thing. It's not a level playing field. And you got to knock out the immunity when you know you're not going to be held accountable. So I had someone the other day said, and a good friend of mine, trying to reason that what looks like a dismissal is because the judge, a federal judge, was scared that there may be some liability attached to what they're doing. Federal judges across the board have absolute immunity. There is no blowback. There is no holding them accountable. Federal judges have to go so far beyond the pale, or state judges, they have to go so far beyond what is beyond. There has to be sexual charges, credible sexual charges. I think that's, I reported in Government Indicted the number of judges that have been taken out of office and held accountable and have gone to jail are slim to none. I mean, it's very, very low because judges gave themselves immunity. It's not something that's spelled out in the Constitution where they said, here's a thing. Why don't we give the people who are right on the front lines destroying people's lives and have the power to destroy people's lives, like Ken Anderson, who sent an innocent man to jail, knowingly sent him to jail. Let's give them not qualified immunity, absolute immunity, even when they do something that's malicious and corrupt. Yeah, that sounds like no, this is something judges gave themselves. It's just like the title of honorable. They gave it to themselves. This is not something the average person was thinking. Ken Anderson, good guy. He's good. Honorable. No, they gave it to themselves. So they have to be stripped of that immunity. I at least qualified immunity like police officers. That they actually have to have evidence. It's not presumed that they have qualified immunity. They have to have actual proof. Okay? So just like these scumbag judges ruled in U.S. versus Cobbledick, I'll never forget that false prosecutions are just the price you pay for citizenship. And you know what? Lawsuits and being held accountable is just the price you pay to have the title of judge. It just has to go with the job. Welcome back to the No Stay Project here on LRN.FM and streaming live on my YouTube channel, No Stay Project, live from the Fortified Compound in Mesa, Arizona. And if you want to join the big show, 218-632-9399, 218-632-9399. The passcode is 2020 with the #. talking about if we can hold these judges accountable, judges, prosecutors, and police officers, and doing okay, because the few times that police officers go to jail or punished in any way is they're too few and far between. That it's like Slager, I mentioned on the last show. I keep going back to that. The crimes are on videotape, on video, and so still nothing. So I mentioned before, judges and prosecutors have got to be stripped of absolute immunity. They have to, if any immunity, it has to be qualified that they actually have to prove that the burden of proof is on them to prove that what they did deserves some kind of qualified immunity. I think all immunity should be stripped. I don't think anybody should have any damn immunity from suit. There's more evidence that you're dealing with a ruling class. Immunity? What other profession? Can you imagine a doctor? Well, doctors have to make life and death decisions. They should be immune for whatever they do on the job. Doctors, why not? They actually hold, literally sometimes, they hold your life in their hands. Are they immune from prosecution? The idea that that so-called public servants should be immune for the damages that they cause on the job is astoundingly arrogant. But someone's got a question here. Are there any clarification questions that could be asked to keep the jurisdiction and threat of jail and death out in front of any conversation we have with government? Well, one, don't do it. You don't want to do that. Let's make sure we're not doing that on the side of the street with a police officer. We don't discuss things like that with a police officer on a traffic stop. You shouldn't be talking to the police, period. Don't call the police. Don't talk to the police. You have to treat police officers for what they are. They are predators. They are extremely dangerous. They are armed and very dangerous. They are very trigger happy. They shoot first, ask questions later. They will light you up. So let's make sure that we always keep that in mind, that we're not trying to engage police officers in an intellectual discussion. I tried to do that, and I was labeled a domestic terrorist. I tried to do it online, and I got banned within a few hours. You cannot have an intellectual discussion with a police officer most of the time, and it is not worth taking your life into your own hand, into your hand, and trying to do that with a police officer. We are absolutely not going to get to a voluntary society, or even a hint of getting to an anarchist society by trying to engage police officers in an intellectual discussion. They're not interested. So hopefully that's off the table. No one's considering that. I was speaking to Christopher this morning, and my stupid thing that I did was walking into a police station with a camera. Not a good idea. I don't even want to engage these people on the phone unless I have to. So the other, I guess it's just a matter of, depending on the circumstances, it's a matter of just you're directing the conversation. Sir, I'm willing to comply, or you believe that this is true. Do you have any actual proof? Can you prove it's true? Ask, questions like, can you prove it's true? Then why do you believe that that's true, and start deconstructing it? But I'm not going to get into that. Okay, so one of the things that I was looking at that I want to hopefully be able to get somebody to put a bill out would be, they used to have bonds. State and federal employee, there were bonds, but that was done away with decades ago. The feds don't even, they don't even have bonds or self-insurance. With the feds, we have no choice. If you want to hold them accountable to any degree, you have no choice but to file a lawsuit. That's what we're stuck with that. The state level, they don't have bonds anymore, but they do have self-insurance, which I've mentioned many times on the show. They self-insure, and then they also get it gets underwritten by private insurance companies. New York Fire and Casualty, that's one of the big ones in New York that insures municipalities out here in Arizona. I'm sure they do it all over the place. So an idea that I had was, Why don't they do where police officers, prosecutors, and judges, at least to start, have to carry their own insurance? Now, it can be paid for through their employment, but it has to be a private insurance where a private insurance agent company is willing to underwrite them and take on that liability. Private. So if you've got a situation like Tamir Rice where a 12-year-old child was murdered, do you think an insurance company is going to look and say, "Ooh, you are a PR nightmare. Sorry, bud." And they have to have the insurance, just like, hey, you got to have the insurance before you can get in an automobile. They have to have private insurance. Yeah, I know the caller line's not on, so anyone who's calling right now, just hold on, and when we get to a break, which is just a few minutes, I will get on the caller line and I'll start taking the calls. But I'm kind of in the middle of something here. So that, I think, would be very powerful. Imagine how they would lobby against something like that. Can you imagine with the government agencies and spokesmen that somebody was actually trying to, and it was gaining traction, that police officers, prosecutors, and judges, to maintain their jobs, had to have private insurance? See, if a false prosecution, according to Cobbledick, is one of the burdens of citizenship, then having insurance to cover any damages that you may cause on the job, just, hey, you want to be a house painter, you want to be a contractor, you got to carry insurance. So then, somebody can just file again and someone you've hurt can file a claim against you. So here a judge may actually have a life term, where he's life tenure. But if he can't carry the insurance, he's out of a friggin' job. Another thing that I thought of this morning, imagine an insurance company taking a big hit on someone like Slager, or the one in Dallas. I can't remember her name. Imagine the insurance company taking a big hit. I think we're at a break. Yeah. We'll be back here on the No State Project. I'll finish up about the insurance when I get back. You want to join me? It's 218-632-9399, 218-632-9399. The passcode is 2020, and we'll take your call. So I'm going to get on the caller line right now. Yes, well, welcome back to the No State Project here on LRN.FM, streaming live from my YouTube channel, No State Project. And just before we get to the calls, Amber Geiger, I want to thank those on the YouTube stream that let me know that piece of garbage who was actually charged, which is kind of rare. I seriously doubt anything's going to be done, and if she does lose her job, she'll just go to another city, another municipality, and she'll work there and maybe kill somebody else or beat somebody. She'll destroy lives unabated. So one of the things I was looking at, you could, as part of this, so law, would be that the insurance company that suffered a big loss on someone like, let's say, Amber Geiger, could then have an action against the police union and go out and have the pension fund make them whole. I think if we can actually start attacking the pension funds, especially for these damn police officers, they may not want to stop shooting poor people. They may not want to stop beating people up and destroying people's lives. But if their actual pension is on the line, maybe then these horrible people, where the courts will not put their butts in jail, at least they can be held to some account economically. Hit these mothers where they breathe. Go after the pension funds. Have an insurance company with their lawyers go after the pension funds to recover the losses that they had to cover. Oh. Then I don't see. We have to see if there's something like that can get traction. It's not that there's a whole lot of police shootings up in New Hampshire, but there is a lot of abuse. So maybe if it could get passed at a place like that, the die is set, and maybe it could go, other places. I'm sure the ACLU would love something like this, something that actually hold these people responsible for at least some of what they've done. Something. So the prosecutor, like Ken Anderson, doesn't just get to walk away after putting an innocent man in jail. If the system just can't bring it themselves to put this scum in prison where they belong, at least we can destroy them economically. Make it so they can't work anymore. Make them the scourge of the society. We can only hope. So let's get to the calls here. Area code 601, you're live on the No State Project. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Yes, Mr. Stevens. This is Lucas McLean. I'm from Philadelphia, Mississippi.
There's a Philadelphia, Mississippi?
Yes, sir.
Wow. I'm sorry. I missed your name. What was it?
Lucas.
Lucas, what can I do for you today?
Well, I was hearing and I've been listening to you for over a year, but I've just now had a chance to where I could call you. Now, you was talking about how to remove the judges and their immunity. Now, you have to watch that because that happened to me. Now, I'm not a judge, don't want to be a judge, but I had a judge removed. They deleted all history of the incident. And when I say all history, there was no court dockets for that day. I had him removed over a $75 inspection sticker ticket that I carried to court because I was within my timeline by law that I could have it removed. He told me I couldn't and was going to charge me $275. I argued with him on the stand as to why I was still in the right. He told me no, that I was in the wrong, and I flipped the question around and I gave it back to him as to, well, when are you going to do it? And it sat there and showed that he could break the law, but I was in the wrong for even asking that question.
Okay, when we're talking about remove the judge, you're just talking about from a particular proceeding, not from the job completely.
No, I removed him from the bench.
How did you do that?
Him completely.
How were you able to do that?
I proved in the court and on the record that day that they removed for his protection so he could, he liked 2 years from having his retirement. But whenever I did it, I showed that he was saying he was above the law. Laws don't pertain to him. So
you got him to basically admit that what was obvious, that the laws that apply to you and I don't apply to people like judges.
That's what they want to claim. Well, whenever it finally went up and it made it to our little county board, whenever it made it to them, which it made it that day, he was removed from the bench that day.
He was summarily removed as a judge by the county board?
Yes.
What county is this?
Neshoba County.
Say that again?
Sir?
What was the name of the county again?
Neshoba. Neshoba.
Is there anything reported online about that? I mean, that's pretty extreme to have a judge, Even a local judge summarily removed the day he made of the offense by the Board of Supervisors.
I do understand that, but yes, he was removed that day, and all records from that day. Everybody that had went to trial before me, everything was erased. No tickets that were there for traffic court that day were paid on record, nothing from that day. There was even a couple that were being bound over to a grand jury. They were dismissed. He proceeded over them, and he had no right because he was in violation and violating the law, claiming he was above the law.
And that was enough for the board. How did the Board of Supervisors even hear about that?
I am not for sure on that, and I cannot tell you on that. And I wish I had went through. I found out 2 days later that he was removed, and there was a stand-in judge in place.
How did you find out that he was removed?
One of my friends, he was a deputy. He's now the judge for the Neshoba County Chancery Court. He's the one that notified me.
So a deputy became a judge.
That he got removed. Sir?
Come on. This isn't making much sense. So now it gets even worse that you're saying that a friend of yours who was a deputy is now the judge who replaced this guy.
Right. That is a major problem that we have around here. Yes, he was the deputy. His name is Earl Spears. I went to school with him. He was a deputy. He is now the sitting judge. He's not a circuit court judge. He's just a little chancery court judge. Never been to law school. He's only been to the, in fact, I don't even think he went to the police academy.
Well, okay, this doesn't really add up. I mean, this is something I'd have to look up and try to find some verification. And just because, judges say a lot of stupid things, it doesn't mean that they get removed from office because of it. You're not even in a court of record. It's not like this is going to ever see the light of day. Whoa, that's some nice background noise you got there. But, I'd have to get some verification of this. This is just not making any sense to me at all.
Well, I will see what I can do, but I will give you the judge's name. It was Donnie Atkins.
Donnie?
And he did, yes, sir, Donnie Atkins.
Okay. I'm sure there's going to be something that we can find online about that. That's summary removal of office for a judge is something that's going to make some news, you would think.
Well, they didn't publish it to keep where he could keep his retirement because he did become sheriff, and yes, he did go after me after he became sheriff. In fact, at 12:01, whenever he's supposed to go into office.
So basically, yes, he swapped positions with your friend, this Earl Spears.
No. Earl Spears was just a little deputy at the time.
So how did this guy become sheriff? Was he elected or was he appointed by the same board who threw him out of office?
He got elected. That was the problem. He got elected. I didn't vote for him because I knew he was corrupt. But he did get elected. And after everything that he run on and all the laws that he violated in that process, he couldn't run after that.
Well, just hold on a second. We're actually on a break on the LRN stream, so we'll be back here in just a few moments with, and maybe I'll get a chance to look this up, and we'll continue talking with. Sometimes you can't win with these tech issues, people. 2007. So we're not going to be able to verify, probably online from what I can see, that he was actually thrown out of office in 2007. And then, so he was elected. What year was he elected sheriff then?
2008.
Wow.
They allowed him to keep his, the retirement and pension, because he only had to have 2.5 years, and they allowed him to do that, and he could run for sheriff. He run for sheriff, and they just went ahead and they did post that in the newspaper, and I do remember that because I did see that in the newspaper. I was out of Philadelphia at the time that he was about 8 months after he became sheriff. And 2010, that was a year and a half later. But yes, he did put that in the paper. He was fixing to be removed from that office.
Yes, I can't find anything online about him being thrown out as judge.
Our little town, they don't want to post nothing, really. We've done had, and this is just in the little Chancery Court judge's office, our main circuit court judge office. We've done had, in fact, what was it? I know the state come in last year, embezzlement charges. Got several of them on that. So yeah, our little city is quite crooked.
Yeah, they all are, but it's just highly unusual to have the situation such as this, where the same day he says that the laws don't apply to him, that the county board removes him. I know it does say in one of these articles that it says, yeah, Adkins will have nearly 30 years in the state retirement system. So I guess he finished out his term as sheriff to get those 30 years.
Correct. And that's what they allowed him to do. It's I know you know of the so-called buddy-buddy system. And that's kind of what we have around here.
Oh, sure.
Is that little buddy-buddy system. Scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. Okay, well, you've been here long enough. Well, you don't like but this. All right, well, we'll scratch you back for now and, let you go ahead and get this.
I wish I had some documentation here, but there's a lot here to back up what you're saying. It's just the one of the most difficult part to believe we've got no actual reporting on. So,
and I wish I would have. I didn't know about you back then to be listening to you, and I really wasn't into the law like this back then. I thought the laws was the law. And I have opened my eyes, and the law ain't the law. And that's where I understand now. And I wish one of them would mess up around here to where I could get them on camera. I can't get the current sitting judge to even talk to me.
I tell you, it would be something to be able to speak to the members of the county board that did kick him out.
Yes, sir.
Because while we still have a government, they would be the type of people. Well, then again, they turned a blind eye. They let him, Well, I guess they couldn't stop him from running for sheriff, but they certainly could have lobbied against him and saying, "I don't think this is a good choice for sheriff because he thinks he's admitted on the record that the laws don't apply to him." Oh.
Right.
I know that there's something here that apparently there was a cloud over the death of one of the deputies, and that they turned the investigation over to the state police. That was back in 2011. So he was still sheriff in 2011. I guess his term ended in 2012.
Oh, in fact, I know about that one. Let me say this real quick, if you don't mind. That incident was at a hotel. Am I correct?
That I don't know. It's the information I'm getting is from the Neshoba Democrat on .com.
Yes, sir.
So
okay. if that's the incident that I am thinking of, that one, yes, it got turned over to the state, but not because they wanted to. It was because the state was involved in it, and it was an undercover drug bust. They had sent an undercover from the county and an undercover from the state. And them two met. And one thought the other, and it got confused in there. And shots rang out. In fact, that hotel just opened back up.
Wow.
And it's only been a couple of years.
It was something that happened recently where there were cops involved in an undercover operation for drugs, and another police agency didn't know that they were undercover cops and almost shot one. I think they actually did shoot into the car, not knowing it was another cop, which, had they killed another cop and then killed themselves, it would have done the world a bit of good. So,
yeah.
Wow. Well, at least there's a picture of this Donnie. He's a pretty big guy.
No, he wasn't that big. He was kind of slim.
Really? Then then this is not him in Google Docs. So in Google Docs they have someone who's at least 320 pounds.
That one that you're looking in the Google Docs is a school teacher for Neshoba County.
Okay.
Yes, that one is a school teacher. We do have two Donnie Atkins.
Oh, wow. All right. Well, I tell you, I appreciate you letting me know about that. It's nice to know that at least at some point, somebody, even as corrupt as they may have been, being, county board of supervisors, took an extreme response on a judge saying that. How did they even know that the judge said that?
That one I cannot answer because I really don't know. I can't answer how it got to them.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense. It's somebody inside the court. Obviously, somebody was listening to that, maybe a clerk or something. I don't know. Pure speculation on my part, but somebody let the county board of supervisors know, and they acted pretty fast. There was no hearing. Apparently, he's done. Wow.
Well, our little hearings like that, we don't hear nothing until it's over with.
The fact that it happened that day, it may not have had anything to do with what was said in court that day. This is something that could have happened days or weeks before, and they just carried out the order that day, and it could be a complete coincidence. He just happened to have said that.
Well, I could agree with what you just said. Could be. It's just the way it come out. And now we did argue right there on that day. And I don't want to see you ever back in this courtroom, or I will have you in prison.
Wow. Nice guy.
Oh, yeah, he's real nice. As long as you do what he says.
Yeah, as long as you're not cooking meth. That seemed to be one of his pet games.
Actually, that's... yeah. Well, we don't want to go to the meth part around here either, so...
Oh, I know it's bad. But I looked at some of the things he was pretty big on, and that seemed to be one of his crusades. So...
Well, he kind of protected let's say he didn't go after the little guys. He would let them go, except for he kept them working for him. He would go after the bigger ones, but it was only for the simple fact of, I know where he lived at. He had a chicken farm, and he did have 5 houses. But now you can't tell me you're going to run 4 houses and have the 5th one locked up like he did. And we don't have chicken farmers that do that. When you have chicken houses, you have them all running. You don't have one locked up like Fort Knox.
Yeah. Well, there was a story.
I lived a mile through the woods.
Yeah. Well, I'm at the top of the hour break. I got to let you go. I got a full boat of calls. I do appreciate that. If you can find some other information to back that up, I'd like to hear it, because I am leaning more towards it was a coincidence that they were going to remove him that day anyway. But I do appreciate the call. My name is Mark Stevens. You're listening to the No State Project here on LRN.FM and my YouTube stream, No State Project. We'll be back with the second of 3 hours of Anarchy Radio in just a few moments. Don't go away. Yes, welcome back to the No State Project here on LRN.FM and streaming live on my YouTube channel in HD. Well, it looks that way to me anyway. Is the No State Project did live for November 17, 2018. So, all right. Well, people have just let me know that the bumper music and the stream is going on the YouTube. So, okay. Well, that's cool. I thought people were saying a while back that it wasn't doing that, but who knows. Second of 3 hours of Anarchy Radio. If you want to join me, it is 218-632-9399, 218-632-9399. The passcode is 2020 with the #. And what we mean by anarchy is no rulers. No rulers. Not something I saw the other day going on Facebook that how pissed off somebody is. People saying that anarchy doesn't mean what we say it means. It literally means no rules. You know, that's not what the word means from the literal translation from Greek. So, yeah. Anyway, no rulers. Rules, yeah, such as do no harm. That's wrong to hurt others. So, but please spare me with this crap that don't force your morality. All right, so, oh gosh. So anyway, and if you want to join me on the show, 218-632-9399. Passcode 2020 talking about anarchy being no rulers, having a government-less or stateless society, government abuse, and defending yourself effectively in court. So you could definitely get, and you can also leave. So if you're on the YouTube stream, you can leave a comment. So if you have a question or something you want me to discuss, you can leave it there. Let's get back to the calls. What do we got? We got Tom from the Big D, one of the 8 Detroits in the United States. Tom, welcome back.
Hey, Mark, how are you?
I'm doing well. What do you got for us today?
Well, I got four little things here listed. First off, I'd like to address, again, we've discussed this before, and you suggested it to myself, and I dropped the ball and didn't do it. Well, I tried suing the city's bonding agency. When I tried to do it, and I, again, dropped the ball, I called for the bonding agency's or the insurance agency's name and number, and I was shifted and shuffled all the way to the city manager. And when I got him and I asked that question, he said, "Why do you want to know this?" And I said, "Well, I want to know. It should be public right, and I have something I just want to know." And he says, "Well, I'm not going to give it to you until you tell me why." So imagine that for a second.
Well, the cops do that. If you see videos of people going into police departments to do complaints, they won't give them the form unless they tell them who they're complaining about and why, which is
right.
Kind of a silly thing to do. And so I do want to point out, wait, hold your thought 1 second. I wouldn't ask for the bonding agency. I would just get directly with risk management, because risk management 9 times out of 10, if not more, are the state agency or the county agency, whatever it is, that is covering the insurance for the municipality.
Well, in actuality, I may have actually asked for who risk management was, and I could see that exact same question coming back.
Okay. And
he wouldn't give it to me. I would have had to research it under FOIA, and I failed. I let it drop there. But anyway, just something that I wanted to pop up in case, there's people listening right now. If they try that, don't be discouraged. And what would you do?
I would file a claim on my own form. And if they said,
whom? You need to do the FOIA first to get the information of who they are.
Well, FOIA is a federal, so you probably have to do a Privacy Act kind of. So So you don't want to do a FOIA with a state agency because that's a reason to reject it. So keep that in mind. FOIA is for federal. And so you usually have privacy acts at the state level. I would file it with the I would file the.
Wait. Hold on. FOIA is also something that they tell us. Here, right in our city, all this stuff is available. Anything we want to know, and it can be used. I know I've gone through this before with local stuff. So FOIA is Freedom of Information Act. It may be federal, yeah, but the Freedom of Information, I could have requested to know what the bonding agency or insurance or whatever was through FOIA. It would have probably been a little bit more difficult, but why do you say it's only federal? Because
it's a federal law, and the states have their own privacy acts, and they may call it a Freedom of Information Act, but like in Arizona, it's a public records request that you're making. And if we titled it on the FOIA, at least in Arizona, they would reject it on the grounds that they're not a federal agency, and they don't have to respond. But a public record request under Title 41, they are obligated to respond to that.
That's really interesting because as judges do, they use words to placate us, okay? And if they said to me, well, we're not going to give you this FOIA information and not tell me why, that's good to know. You just made something really clear. It's a public information. Say that again. What did you call that?
A public record request.
Okay, that's good to know because I could see that. Okay, well, that was one thing that I wanted to ask. The second thing too is I've heard this before, and this has come up before. That, and again, this is a what do you call this? Conflict of interest. Judges' pensions, and I've had this told to me right by a retired detective that the judges' pensions are partially funded by the fines that he's collected or that the city's collected throughout his tenure. Have you ever verified anything along that
line? Well, we've brought that out in California, and in California they can actually document that that's not true there, that the fines go into a general fund. I know in Arizona it's the same way. The fines go into a general fund. Those funds may go back. I have no doubt that they probably do get kickbacks, so that it does. It's just a matter of being able to actually prove it. Now, this retired cop or detective, he may be right, and absolutely. But if we don't have any actual documents to prove that, it really doesn't matter. It doesn't help us out at all. So we need the actual documents to prove that that's true, and that's probably something you would have to get a public record request.
I've tried Googling it. I've tried doing research on that. I tend to believe that's probably correct, but you're not going to find it. Just like this judge, Catherine Steenland here, who was my one loser who walked off the bench on me. He had 2 DUIs and a hit and run. Just had a trial. The trial was announced, and it was even the lawyer that she had was the same lawyer I had for my, life sentencing case, yada yada. So she hired the best in the county. But I'll be damned if I can find anything on what the resolve was. Nothing. I've tried every newspaper, everything. Nothing. They don't talk about it. I've Googled it. I've tried everything.
I know somebody in California had showed me the paperwork to prove that a check that was given through the court for alimony or child support had actually been processed through a trust fund that was kept for the judges. That I've actually seen. So on the back of a canceled check, it has and it was there as plain as day. I still would like to call BS on it, but I actually saw it. So now
here's another little kicker. Okay, here's another thing that everybody needs to hear. You should be really nice to the judge's clerk, because if you want a transcript, they actually have the power to charge you whatever they want. And dig this, you send them to their name directly a check. No to the state. With that?
Well, I think I'm up against the break, so just hold tight. All right. My name is Mark Stevens. You listen to the No State Project here on LRN.FM, and really just right now you're hearing it on my YouTube stream. We'll be back with Tom in talking about clerks in court, being nice to the judges' clerks. I guess we do have to when we get back. So don't go away. We'll be right back. Yes, welcome back to the No State Project. I'm your host, Mark Stevens. The website, of course, markstevens.net. And to answer a question here, I think I understand what Mike is saying. Any wins? If you go to markstevens.net, go to the success story link, you'll see tons and tons and tons of documented proof of where we have won traffic and tax and drug charges. So, yes, there is quite a lot of them. Quite a lot. And I think I had 3 success stories that I posted last week. I've got another one to post. But, yeah, and in fact, we've had success in Canada, United States, Australia, New Zealand, and in England. 2 that were in Wales alone. So, yeah. But getting back to, we've got Tom. All right, Tom, you're talking about being nice to the judge's clerk and somebody. We're not talking. Just I know you already said this, but you posted here on YouTube. We're not talking about the court reporter. You're talking about the judge's clerk.
That's right. Because the court reporter, or whoever's taking the recording, that's nowadays it's not even someone doing it. It's usually recorded, and the judge's clerk, when you ask for that transcript, will transcribe it. And she or he will charge you what he or she decides. And I've been really lucky with the people that I've spoken to. I've been very polite. At one time, I was unemployed, and she cut me a deal because they can charge you whatever they want, and they charge you directly. It blew my mind that I fill out my check to her personally, her name. That right there should, that alarms me, but I did what I had to do, but I'm just bringing it up because doesn't that seem kind of strange?
Because even when you buy a recording from a court, let's say like I've done here in Mesa, if I'm writing a check, if a check is made, it doesn't go to the clerk in a personal capacity. That sounds like somebody might be running their own little scam. With the judge's approval.
Well, of course, it's all a scam, but the bottom line is every single clerk. I've done it here in St. Clair Shores. I've done it in Roseville. I'm living on the outskirts of Detroit right now, and I've had my little issues. And every one of these, in these small cities, the check was cut directly to the judge's clerk's personal name.
Wow.
That was like, huh.
Wow.
So that's why I'm suggesting be really nice.
Yeah, if they want to charge you $5,000, they can.
Yeah, pretty much. So, and when the judge walked up on me, my one loser, and I called that clerk, okay, and I told her that I wanted to appeal that. She says, well, you are going to have to go up to the circuit court, and it's a special transcript. There was things that she had to do differently. She was very polite, very nice, very informative, which is very rare. And that, again, I dropped that ball, and you and I went around this. I'm not going to hash that up again. But I'm just making that point, that they put in so many hoops for us to appeal, and she let me know that. Even for her, she had to fill out a special, do it a different way. Hey, it's just what a joke,
Makes you appreciate Arizona.
Pardon me?
Makes me appreciate Arizona because the court system is not nearly as complicated as, let's say, California. Now I'm hearing about Michigan, and good Lord, Pennsylvania is a friggin' mess. Oh,
you think about it. I mean, how ludicrous this is. We live in a so-called country that the laws are all supposed to be the same, yet every municipality. Even to the point where I've told you, we've discussed this before, where you walk up to the window to check in when you get to court for your traffic ticket. and there's a woman behind this window that says, "How do you plead?" And when I said, "I'm not here to plead you," she says, "Well, then I can't send you to a courtroom." I mean, the scam is getting deeper and deeper and deeper from county and city to city. They all make their own rules. It's insane.
Well, they make the right, but I think it's one of the worst. I think, and I mentioned this on the show, is that criminal trials in Oregon don't have to be unanimous to be they could be split like in a civil proceeding, which. Wow. From what I understand, I think they amended the Constitution to do that in 1934. So the states, since they're not, the states are supposed to be, they started out as 13 sovereign states or governments or, countries, nation, so they were united, under a federation, the Articles of Confederation. So they were supposedly united for a particular purpose and with the war and whatnot. So they've always done things independent. They borrow things, or they look at other court cases like New York will look at New Jersey for guidance and see if they have more experience on a particular issue. But they do have their own procedures. This one is particularly bad. You don't have to have a unanimous jury. Wow, that's scary. Again, some places are worse than others. That's true. And right there, Oregon, not unanimous. That's a bad move. Wow. That is, I don't know the history of that, and maybe that's something that I'll do a show on. But I think what you're talking about is similar to what they do in California. I think the clerks are just doing that, and I don't think it's consistent with due process. I think they're doing that because the cops give out so many tickets, and it's easier for them to process it, and so the judges just look the other way, or probably are complicit in that. So there's less of a workload. And how many people, we know that 95% so far of complaints always end up in a plea deal anyway. So most people don't give a damn. They're just there to pay. You're the oddball out because you're not actually paying. You want to actually defend yourself.
Yeah, well, you just hit another key topic, the workload. Here in this city that I live in, St. Clair Shores, I've been in and out of this city for well over 40 years, and it's always remained right around 60,000 people population. And now, all of a sudden, they had to build a cathedral for a courthouse. And now, in our latest local paper, they had to hire another lead, or what do they call it, master, clerk, whatever, like top wage, because the tickets now, they've got a fully staffed police department that is issuing so many traffic tickets that they can't keep up. So they had to hire another clerk at top wage, top pensions, blah, 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 to deal with all this. It just never ends, man.
Yeah, and if they're not getting just, that's the thing. They're not just getting people that are in your town, okay? They're getting people who are going through your town. So you can't look at just the population being constant. It's all the people that are going in and out throughout the day. They're getting, especially if you've got out-of-state plates. Boy, cops love that. They're not gonna. They're just gonna pay. This is certain. I meet my quota by just pulling over these Canadians.
Well, what's really interesting. My mother and I, we don't talk much because she's a total communist, and I just can't handle her. She escaped East Germany and still doesn't understand it. But I told her one day, and she argued with me, that here in this city, on 12 Mile, it's usually right on 12 Mile, they'll have a cop standing there in uniform with binoculars and a radio. And they'll have 6 or 7 more cops in private parking lots down the street, and he's watching everyone for seatbelts. And when he sees no seatbelt, he radios them ahead, and they pull them over, and it's like a big boon for this city. Once every couple months they pull this. And she doesn't believe it. My mother actually tells me that there's no way that can be happening. Anyway, well, like I said, it just never ends.
Yeah, well, we got to go. We're up against a break here soon. I'm waiting. We haven't had it yet, but when you say she's a communist, she actually advocates for the violent overthrow of the means of production by the working class?
Yeah. Her house was bombed out in World War II. They had to walk to what became East Germany. They had the Russians move into their home. Okay, all 5 of their family had to move into one bedroom and service the Russians. Fortunately, none of the girls were raped, which is very common. And then she lived through it until 1958 and left under false pretenses and got out, but still claims that communism was the best because everyone had what they needed. They didn't have the extras, but they had what they needed.
Wow.
It's just so ridiculous.
Some people you can't reach. Yeah. I am up against the break, so just hold on. We'll finish up in the next segment. My name is Mark Stevens. You listen to the No State Project here on LRN.FM, the Liberty Radio Network, and streaming live on my YouTube channel, No State Project. We'll be back in just a moment, and if you want to call in, it's 218-632-9399. The passcode is 2020 and the pound sign. Yes, welcome back to the No State Project here on the LRN.FM, the Liberty Radio Network, and streaming live, of course, on my YouTube channel, No State Project. Remember, the website is markstevens.net. If you want a model that has proven itself to be very effective, is in defending yourself. It is included in Government Indicted, which you can get at markstevens.net, available as an ebook. And I gotta thank Brian from High Impact Blog for playing one of my call of shames to a tax agent and helping to expand the audience. And I do appreciate that. We're working on the schedules to get him on the big show, so we're probably going to have to record. I don't think I could do a live show with him. But if you subbed, you'll know when we have that, when it is uploaded. So definitely get subbed to do that. And appreciate all the new subs this week. Of course, thanks to Brian. But talking with Tom in Detroit, it really is unfortunate. Some people, no matter what evidence you give them, they will not accept it. So somebody living through communism, where it was so bad in that part of Germany that they had to build a wall to keep people in.
Well, the thing is, though, yes, that was bad, okay? And I remember my uncle. I have been in East Germany when it was East Germany, back and forth several times. And the first time we went was really bizarre because my mother left in '58 under false pretenses. In 1966, we went back, and I was like 5 years old. And I remember the dogs, the machine guns, the whole 9 yards. And my parents weren't American citizens yet. For my mother and father to make the decision to go back into East Germany just to visit her family was, now that I'm 57, thinking about this is absolutely, that was an insane move because they could have kept her there. I can't believe they didn't keep her there. And, but the point is, she remembers and she knows by every Christmas we sent our relatives over there a box of stuff because they couldn't get things like fruits and, stuff that they needed. And yet she still claims that communism was the best way because everybody had they had a house, they had a basic income, and you try to rationalize that or use an analogy with someone like that to say, listen, if I had a credit card of $100,000 and we used it to live the next couple of years high on the hog, yeah, that'd be great. But sooner or later, the debt's going to come due. And that is why East Germany was let go by the Russians. It was broke. It was a broke country, broke. That's why they let it go. It just pisses me off that she still thinks that communism was the way to go.
Well, let me ask you this
anyway,
before I let you go, because we're getting lined up with calls. Why did she leave in 1958?
Well, because she met my father, and she used the excuse that if you had someone ill or, deathbed, whatever, on the west side, you could go if you promised to come back. So she left because she met my father, and he wasn't going to go to East Germany. He wasn't stupid. He was from the West. And so they left, and, But anyway, I just one more quick topic before you let me go. I'm kind of proud of myself today. I quit a job that I've just got 2 weeks ago, and a big part of it was because I was literally making parts, or not making, but checking and assuring that the parts for mass killing machines were A1. And the last coup de grace was I'm inspecting missile parts. I can't do it, dude. I can't do it. So they were making jokes. Well, don't worry, these are one-way parts. And I'm like, and I thought they were aircraft parts. That's what do you mean? You don't care if the people die on the aircraft? No. This is a missile, and they explained to me exactly how this missile is used and how it comes out of a torpedo and blah blah blah. And I'm like, man. So anyway, I left my status position. I'm going to apply to something that does not involve the government. I'm going to try to get a job in what I do that does not accept government contracts of any kind.
At least not a government contract that's going to be used to kill people, whether you're making things to kill people. Well, good for you. Well, that was good. I'm glad we were able to get to that.
All right, Mark. You have a good night.
Yep, have a good one. Tom in the Big D. One of 8 Detroits, actually. That was a real surprise to find that out. I actually, when I mentioned on Wednesday's show, I found that out because I kept on getting a repeat call from a number. Anyway, one of those damn robo things. Where they're supposed to be passing a law. I know. Just hear me out. Where it's supposed to be a $10,000 fine per robocall. I don't know how they could, with my limited grasp of technology, I don't know how they could possibly enforce that and find out. They spoofed the numbers, and anyway, it would be nice to have those robocalls stopped. I'm real surprised that it's been very quiet today, which I don't want to jinx anything. Anyway, he's been very patient. We'll get to the calls. It's area code 360. You're live on the No State Project. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Hey, my name is Rock, and I'm calling from Whatcom County, Washington, which is right up on the border with Canada. At the north end of I-5.
You said your name was Rock? Is that what you're using?
Yes.
Nice.
Yeah. My last name is Rockwell, so everybody calls me Rock.
All right. What can we do for you today?
Well, the left coast is alive and well. I'll let you know, because I know you were in Arizona. We have a county government here that is literally off the charts with this specious use of the term, ecology. Everything is for the ecology here. These guys couldn't hold my ecological jockstrap. I design and build active and passive solar homes. I drive an electric car, etc. But when they claim that they want sustainable building, it's all lip service, because you show up with the plans and these beautiful designs and everything else, and they say, well, geez, this isn't in our little book. Let us take this into the back room for 120 days, and then we'll come out and tell you no, after they already claimed that that's what they want. So when you bring them innovative designs and so forth. So my question to you, Mark, is that I had a septic permit on a piece of property where they issued it to me, and then the next month was the wettest month on recorded history here. It rained 29 out of 31 days in the month of November a few years back, and they took my septic permit away from me because they came and looked in the test holes and they were filled with water. Well, no kidding. It rained 29 out of 31 days. Everything was wet. So, do you have any pearls of wisdom for me on how to deal with these overzealous municipalities that really have you by the short and curlies? Hello?
I did it again. Do you know if anybody in the area was getting a similar thing, or were they just targeting you, even though other people had the same situation? Because, again, it rained 29 out of 31 days.
I do not know that. And I tell you, I was so angry that I didn't even want to go down there near the office because I was just afraid of myself going postal. If you look up the expression "blood boiling" in the dictionary, you know what these people do. I'm surprised that no one has done that yet. By the way, I'm surprised that nobody's gone into these offices and just started cleaning up and just started taking down people, because they're infuriating. It's so frustrating how they deny you your rights and due process, and everything is done under the guise of, oh, you know, we care. I haven't had trash service for 25 years. I recycle everything. I save water and use it to flush toilets. I mean, these guys couldn't hold my ecological. Like I said, it's all lip service. They'll get on and do an interview and say, we want sustainable building, and we want this, and we want that, and we're going to fast track it. And then when you bring it to them, it's like you have three heads and you're from the planet Skyron or the galaxy of Andromeda.
Well, let me ask you, since one of the questions you asked, not a question, but one of the statements you made about being surprised, nobody has gone, and I'm not saying you're advocating that, but have you ever heard of a man named Carl Draga?
I have not.
Yeah, I look up Carl Draga. Actually, Vince Saprinowicz did a book. He's a columnist in Las Vegas, and his Sending the Waco Killers was first, and then the Battle of Carl Draga was after that. And it's a collection of columns that he had written regarding what happens in some cases where the stress that bureaucrats exert on people that puts them to a breaking point. And I think it was called Draga in Vermont, or it's been a long time. But it was, he wound up killing a judge, and he got into a shootout with some police officers. He just couldn't take it anymore. Again, no one is advocating that, but he's an example, just like Joe Stack, I believe was his name, with the IRS in Austin. I think it was Austin, where the bureaucrats push you and push you and push you till a regular, normal, peaceful person is beyond. They push them over the edge. You can't take the stress anymore. You need it to stop. And so Carl Draga got his rifle and started easing the stress. And the only way that you could do that was to start shooting, because the system is so corrupt, especially like when you go back to what Lucas was talking about in Mississippi, where the good old boy, where you don't have remedy. You can look at other historical examples where it's been done to large groups of people in the South, where there is no remedy. Like, what are you supposed to do? What are you supposed to do when the government is the predator? I think I'm out of break, so but just hold tight. Hold on one second, Rock. Yeah, my name's Mark Stevens. We're up against another break here on LRN.FM and the here streaming on my YouTube channel, No State Project. We'll be back with Rock in Washington in just a few moments, so don't go away. Here on LRN.FM. Well, I'm really messing this up. Welcome back, everybody. We're talking with Rock in Washington. And Rock, you had mentioned that you'd not heard of Carl Draga, so if you bear with me for just a moment, I'll keep you muted. Let me just go through some of the details. Carl Draga was 1935 to 1997 was from Bow, New Hampshire. So I got that right. He killed 2 state troopers, a judge, and a newspaper editor, and wounded 3 other law enforcement officers before being shot to death in a firefight with police. His story is chronicled in the book The Battle of Carl Draga by Vince Saprinowicz. Draga had a long history of conflict with government officials over code enforcement issues starting in the 70s. Oh my gosh, and he was killed in 97? Over whether he could use tar paper to side his vacation house in Columbia, New Hampshire. He claimed that in 1981, 80 feet of the riverbank along his property collapsed during a rainstorm. Drager decided to dump and pack enough dirt to repair the erosion damage, saying this would restore his lot along the Connecticut River to its original size. State officials, on the other hand, contested that Drager was trying to change the course of the river. In 1995, the town selectman Vicky Bunnell accompanied the town tax assessor to Drager's property in a dispute over assessment. Drager fired shots into the air and drove them away. Drager bought an AR-15 and an armor vest and began equipping his property with early warning electronic noise and motion detectors. On August 19th, 1997, a New Hampshire State Trooper, Scott Phillips, stopped Drager in the parking lot at La Pearl's IGA supermarket in neighboring Colebrook for having too much rust on his pickup truck. Good Lord. Drager got out of his truck with his rifle and fired upon Trooper Phillips. Trooper Phillips was hit but returned fire before retreating into a nearby field. Drager followed Phillips into the field and murdered him. Trooper Leslie Lord pulled into the La Pearl's parking lot moments later, and from approximately 150 feet away, Drager shot and killed Lord before he could even get out of his police car. Drager then stole Phillips' police car and drove to the office of Colebrook District Court Judge Vicky Bunnell to murder her. Bunnell reportedly carried a handgun in her purse out of fear of Drager, but may not have had it with her that day. Seeing Drager approaching the building with his rifle, she warned fellow staffers to evacuate as she ran for an exit. Drager shot Bunnell in the back from a range of about 30 feet, killing her. Dennis Jews, editor of the local Colebrook News and Sentinel, attempted to disarm Drager after Bunnell fell. During the struggle, Drager shot and killed Jews. Drager returned to his property and set his house on fire. New Hampshire fire. Wow. Wayne Sanders with the efficient game observed Drager driving a state police car. Drager turned and crossed the state line into Bloomfield, Vermont. You see, I said New Hampshire and Vermont. I remember that much. Exited the police car and fired upon Saunders. Saunders was hit with several bullets through his vehicle, including one that struck his badge, saving him from a likely fatal wound. Saunders retreated under the hail of fire by driving in reverse and crashing into the Connecticut River. Drager set up his last stand on a dead-end road on the Vermont side of the river. Police from numerous state, local, and federal agencies descended upon Drager's position. Drager sprang his ambush, shooting New Hampshire State Trooper Jeffrey Calder in the lower abdomen, New Hampshire State Trooper Robert Haas in the foot, and a Border Patrol agent John Pfeiffer in the chest. After the gunfire died down, agents moved a police vehicle to the scene in an attempt to evacuate Pfeiffer before he bled to death. But once the vehicle approached, Drager began firing again, forcing the officers to take cover. Eventually, New Hampshire State Trooper Charles West and Border Patrol agent Stephen Brooks advanced up a slope to Drager's position. As Drager stepped out from behind a tree to fire, Brooks opened up his M14 rifle, while West fired a slug from his Remington 870 shotgun, killing Drager and ending the gunfight. So that is what happened, according to Wikipedia and the the footnotes, to call Drager. I'm not, and I'm sure you're not saying that what he did was right, but it's just you can push people, and everyone has their breaking point. Doesn't mean we're going to pick up rifles, but you need the stress to stop. You need to be left alone, and they simply wouldn't leave him alone.
Yeah, well, the biggest, well, first of all, I'm remiss in that I wanted to thank you for what you do, because I am a longtime libertarian, but new to the movement of voluntarism and anarcho-capitalism. And I'm really thankful for people like yourself who are able to disseminate logical, factual information. And of course, you're going to be labeled a heretic and a conspiracy theorist and everything else by the mainstream, because they don't want their apple cart upset. They want things the way they are. They don't want guys like you and me getting involved with these things and actually using logic and proof and facts to refute the control that they've exerted over us. And we just need more people. We need to educate more people. We need to do it in a logical fashion. Really, if you ask, what are there 6 questions about anarchy? If you ask people, is it right for you to exert force or coerce another party who has not harmed you? And those questions. You familiar with those, Mark?
I'm vaguely familiar with that. I think it's a more difficult way or convoluted way to go about things. I like things simple, but I have heard of that.
No, I think the questions are very simple. There's like 6 questions. Is it okay for you to rule over somebody else, basically? Okay, no. Is it okay for somebody else to use force or coerce you to do something when you haven't done anything wrong to them? The answer is no. Is it all right for you to confer that right to somebody else then if you don't have it? Then the answer, it's very logical. It's very progressive.
Yeah.
And it just goes like question by question and you get to the same point with people.
Well, yeah, I think it's easier to just ask somebody, if I or you were to do things like government does and force perfect strangers to give us money, would that make us criminals? And the answer is, well,
yeah.
Yes. Well, okay, so what we know is government is a criminal organization.
Right. And the guy that really got me into this is, and I came to you through Brian at High Impact Flix, Flix, or his YouTube channel, High Impact Vlogs, VLOGS. And yeah, he's really gotten me straightened out in terms of that, and he's the one that led me to you. So again, I just wanted to thank you for what you're doing. I really think that it's important work, very important.
Oh, I appreciate that. And again, I'm trying to get with Brian to work around his schedule so that we can actually do a show. I'm almost certain it's going to be recorded, which is cool. There's no commercials. But
have you looked at his? Pardon me for interrupting you, but have you looked at his background at all? I thought the guy was maybe 40 years old or something. Well, he's probably closer to 50. He's totally buffed out. He's got this tight beard and a ponytail. He's like a bodybuilder hippie. He has 5 kids. I didn't know he had 5 kids. He owns a hobby farm in Oklahoma, and he produces these videos every single day, at least one, and oftentimes 2, that are very well produced. I'm like, when does this dude have time to sleep? He's amazing. He's like a one-man wrecking crew for voluntarism.
I'm glad to he did that, and he's interested in the material, and I'm hoping that, and he's open. He wants to be on the show, so hopefully that happens. And I think we definitely need more people to be engaged in critical thought and challenging what most of us, and we've all taken for granted, and being skeptical and not accepting excuses and let's say, in platitudes in place of actual evidence. And, we have to look at the evidence and the logic, and if it can't be proven, we should discard it. We shouldn't, and from what I understand, that he's not an anarchist at this point yet, but, that I'm sure after, we spend an hour or so speaking, well, within, doesn't take that long, but that he will see that the Constitution that should only be used to show contradictions in their thoughts and in their assertions, not as some kind of document that's sacred or actually does what it
right. Yeah, I think Brian more falls under the category of eschewing labels. I don't think he really he wants to label himself. He just says, this is my philosophy. I believe that it's improper for anybody to exert force on somebody else if they haven't done anything wrong.
There you go. All right. Well, Ron, hold on one moment. We're up against the top of the hour break, so let me mute you up. My name is Mark Stevens. You're listening to the No State Project here on LRN.FM. We're going into the third of 3 hours of Anarchy Radio. And if you're tuned in listening on the YouTube, again, this is a live radio broadcast, so we're going to have, I will be responding to the chat, but not speaking to help with the editing. So we'll be back in just a moment. If you want to join me, it's 218-632-9399, 218-632-9399. The passcode is 2020 and the pound sign. Yes, welcome back to the No State Project here on LRN.FM, the Liberty Radio Network, and of course streaming live on my YouTube channel, No State Project. It is November 17, 2018. Glad to be with you for the third of 3 hours of Anarchy Radio. Anarchy meaning no rulers, because it is wrong to lie, steal, kill, and cheat other people. And more so, just thinking that you have a moral right to do so because you call yourself a government. And someone's saying here, maybe we'll have more time to get into it later, but the Constitution is a contract. No, it's not. Even if they did sign as signatories, it only applied to them, and they were forcing, perfect strangers to give them money, so that didn't create obligations of allegiance and protection. The whole thing completely collapses because of the violence, the aggression, and so no. But getting back, we were talking with Rock in Washington, and you had not heard about the Carl Draga story, so I hopefully will get that in the show notes and on markstevens.net when we post the audio. I will be pulling this video down and having just audio, so all the commercials are taken out, so please keep that in mind with when putting comments up. I don't want to hear that I'm afraid of your comments. So welcome back, Rock.
Yeah, thank you, Mark. Back to my original question, do you have any entities or pearls of wisdom or somewhere that I can turn where I can get support as somebody who feels like the government holds all the cards here? They're going to fight. The irony of this whole thing is if you bring a lawsuit against them, they're fighting you with your own money. That's why people say, well, if you sue the cop and the city settles, you're just going to raise your taxes. I get that. That's why I had mentioned that earlier in the show, that if we could get a Free State Project participant or some other libertarian-minded individual who's already in a state legislature to, sponsor a bill that would change things, and so that that where now that they're insured by the municipality and they don't actually give money to do that they should have private insurance. In order to have a job as a police officer, you have to have private insurance. Part of it can be paid with tax money, but it has to come from his salary. He has to pay it. Which I agree with 100%. I think it's an excellent idea because you're right. Even if the taxpayers have to pay for the policy, you get to a point where the person, just like a super bad driver, right, that's had 5 DUIs or whatever, and all of a sudden his insurance is through the roof. Well, the force would hopefully be smart enough to say no, but your idea of hitting the pension fund is even better because then that's direct cause and effect.
Yeah. Let the insurance company, pay for the damages that the cop has done, and then go seek to get their damages recouped by going after the pension fund, and specifically having a law that says the insurance company can recover their losses by going after the pension fund.
Right.
Yeah, well, that's one way. Yeah, that's there's the only other thing I don't know. There's really not much other than suing them, which of course is going. It doesn't even come out of the police budget. It comes out from the county's risk management or the city's risk management, which is ultimately paid for by us. We pay that. So there's I look at. When you mention the education, having more people confronting them at city councils and exposing them for the criminals that they are. So one of the things that I did in Tempe was, one of the questions was, since they had no evidence, and admittedly they had no evidence, because I was told point blank, we have jurisdiction because we said so, and it's up to you to prove otherwise. Wow. And so a question turned on, and I did this in Scottsdale too, where are the judges getting the evidence of jurisdiction to prosecute us when it's not coming from the police and it's not coming from the prosecutors? So maybe that's something that you can do also, bring more attention to it and get video so people can hear. And by asking him those questions, if I did things just the way you do it, sir, and I forced strangers to give me money, would you consider me a criminal? And most people are gonna get it. And that helps expose them. So maybe there would be somebody in locally who's a libertarian who would actually like to exercise some backbone and sponsor a bill stripping judges and prosecutors outright of their immunity and pushing to have them all have, or at least cops, judges, and prosecutors, because they are so central to to damaging people, and having them have to carry private insurance.
Well, I guess the key is, like we alluded to before, it's got to be education, because I was part of the indoctrinated crowd. I used to think I'd look at a sovereign citizen video 20 years ago and think, this guy's nuts. I was brainwashed into thinking that anybody that steps out of the norm is the a-hole. That they're the ones that have a mental problem. And now I'm convinced that it's the other way around. And I don't know why it's taken me so long to get enlightened. I guess because I went to public school for all those years and was indoctrinated, and we were a decent the cops are your friend kind of family in a neighborhood where we grow up. And I've learned that just isn't the case.
Hey, most of us were raised that same way. I got to see, at least at a very young age, that cops are not your friends. And I was able to see not horrible things as a kid, but I was able to see how the rules didn't apply to the cops. I had a cop that lived right down the street from me. I grew up with him. He was someone's dad. And then someone else, gosh, I'm drawing a blank on his name, but I saw firsthand the rules didn't apply to the cops. And that seemed like, that's crap. I mean, they seem to be like the worst offenders. Like, how can they possibly say that I'm bad and doing something wrong when they are doing worse? And so that was a pretty big crack in the veneer, in the facade. And it took a long time for me. It was very difficult in the 90s being, at least in my circle, being the only anarchist and seeing that the Constitution itself and citizenship was creating the problem. And, I had some very pissed off patriots at me that didn't want to work with me and because I questioned. And I not only questioned the official story, I questioned their story. And the guy's name was Carl out of Minnesota. And boy, he was so irate with me because I showed that not only was the government lying, but he was lying as well with his citizens for a constitutional Minnesota. And he lied as much as any prosecutor. He lied as much as any cop or judge. Mm-hmm. But you had to be able to challenge him too.
The powers of rationalization are very, very strong and evident all around us in society, and it's again, I guess I'll just go back to my question one more time. Is there anybody out there listening, or do you know of anyone that helps citizens? Well, I don't even want to call myself a citizen in this case. Help individuals who are being railroaded by government with ecological mumbo jumbo that they just create out of the ether to exert more control and extort us for more money.
I have a forum and we have a Skype chat, and then there's the Discord where where you probably heard of me with Brian, and so that's a way of of meeting up with people. And if you were to go to a city council meeting, and I think I'm up against a break. Well, I'll just do this. We'll come back in a moment. So just hold tight. My name is Mark Stevens. You're listening to the No State Project. Yeah, we are up against the break. I actually recorded this time. You're listening to the No State Project here on LRN.FM, the Liberty Radio Network, and on my YouTube channel. We'll be back with Rock in just a few moments. And if you want to join the show, it's 218-632-9399, 9399. The passcode is 2020 with the pound sign. Yes, it's 4:20 Mountain Time, so you know you're going to be listening to Free Talk Live soon. That's a good way to get ready. And Free Talk Live is, of course, immediately after this show at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on LRN.FM, the Liberty Radio Network. It won't be streaming here on my YouTube channel, though, but definitely go to LRN.FM to hear that. We're talking with Rock in Washington. Whoa. Wrong mute button, but welcome back.
Yeah, thank you, Mark. And by the way, for your listeners, that's Washington State. I wouldn't go anywhere near the District of Criminals.
Yeah, well, it's yeah. I don't want to get off on this and so all that crap about draining the swamp, but well, so let's not do that in this segment.
No worries.
Well, is it?
By the way, I stole that from Brian. He's the one that calls it the District of Criminals. I always got a big kick out of that. I thought it was awesome.
It's accurate, but is going to a city council meeting? Is that something that you can see yourself doing?
Yeah, this is a county council thing.
Okay.
You know, you really, you feel like a salmon swimming upstream when you try to do that here, because on the left coast, and especially, our county seat is Bellingham, Washington, where there's Western Washington University, and it's really tough. Mainly out in the county where there are a lot of farmers and it's more rural, those people are more liberty-minded. But man, you get down into Bellingham, it's tie-dye, rainbows, SJWville. So it's, and they keep electing these guys to the council. We're kind of split, and we have this complete. It's almost like the population at large in the United States. It's Trump, anti-Trump, and I'm trying to get everybody off of that left-right treadmill and get them to realize that it's us versus them. It's not left versus right or conservative versus liberal.
Yeah, it's what's bewildering to me is how people, no matter how many times someone like Trump lies, and all politicians do, but not at the astounding level that this guy does. I mean, he lies about things that are inconsequential, like the size of an audience. It's just one of the things that, and I know he's denying it, but then again, Donald Trump, Bone Spur himself, said he doesn't stand by anything, and he has been shown to lie thousands of times. That it was reported this week that where is it that the Trump administration was considering extraditing an enemy of Erdogan in Turkey, someone who's very critical, who's a permanent U.S. resident, and they were considering extraditing him to Turkey, where he would certainly be killed, to kind of ease the tensions between Turkey and now what's coming out more with Khashoggi being murdered, butchered, and disposed. It's just, I mean, no matter what happens, no matter how many lies he's caught in, they don't care as long as he's pissing off the libtards. And it's bewildering to me that how strong the cult of personality is around someone like that. It's not like he has a history of doing good work.
But you're right. And Hillary Clinton makes me gag even more. So, but as a wise man once said, the lesser of two evils is still evil. So, it's going to take a major upheaval. I'm just glad that we elected a non-politician. At least it tells me that people are maybe starting to awaken somewhat. And that's the positive that I take away from it, if there is one.
But does it count if he's an elite, when he's someone who has a history of screwing people? I mean, the man has a decades-long history of screwing vendors. So you can say he's for the working man. Well, one, he's not, because how many contractors has he screwed? he's such a vile, individual. Grab women by the crotch because when you're rich, you could do whatever you want. This guy, and he's right. He could shoot somebody on Fifth Avenue and people would still support him. And it's so difficult for me to wrap my mind around the bond people have to someone so vile, that the cult of personality is so strong. And here they say you can't go for Hillary Clinton because she's too cozy with the Saudis. Even though the CIA, it's difficult to believe anything they say. Even they are saying that that the evidence shows that this prince, so-called, ordered the assassination. They still cannot say, Trump still cannot say anything bad about the Saudi Arabian regime. He can say that Canada are weak. He can say that they are a threat to national security, but he can't say anything negative. Not a single negative comment about the Saudi Arabian regime. Not a single one.
Well, if you knew anything about my personal history, I'll tell you, my distaste and disdain for mainstream media, it goes very deep and very personal, and they are not your friend. So that's the other takeaway I get with Trump, is that when you take the media task, and I love when these mainstream guys get apoplectic about him calling them fake news and everything else. It just warms my heart to watch them, like rats on a ship scurrying around, clamoring, "No, we're great, and, pounding on the table. You can't say that about us. We're really good. We're not an enemy of the people." It's just, that to me, just watching that dog and pony show is worth it. It has to have the government.
But
watching them squirm is worth it.
But he only calls them fake news when they're negative. So he'll say that they're absolutely fake news, but then he'll go and if there's a poll that favors him, then that's true. It's not like he's calling out.
But nobody ever called him out before, Mark.
Well, I don't know about.
No major politician ever called him out at all. So at least he's half right.
Nixon never did.
Well, yeah, that's true.
They have, but they haven't been.
You got me. But not so vociferously though.
Right, they haven't. When you look, I didn't want to get into a Trump thing. I think what I would, maybe there is a take that is a positive thing, but I think it's kind of, that he wasn't a politician, but that's kind of outweighed by how vile he is and how much he's lying and how brazen he is about violating the law. Even the emoluments clause is enough to get him impeached. But maybe there is some hope that non-politicians and people who actually want to help, someone like Larry Krasner, I don't care who gets triggered when I say that. Larry Krasner is the Philadelphia district attorney who's actually doing something good. And if someone like Ian Freeman runs for an office with his record, I think that's, I would definitely use the show, and I would encourage people who could vote for someone like Ian to actually vote for them, because I think that if he was to get in, he would actually change policy, and it would be changed for the better. So maybe there is some hope that people can get in, because I would like to see somebody get in, and when we try to change policy, such as like we've been discussing about stripping judges of immunity and having cops and whatnot have insurance. We're up against another break, so I got to let you go. Hey, I appreciate the call. I hope you'll call again.
Thank you. Cheers.
Thanks. Rock in Washington, the left coast one. We'll be back here on the No Stay Project in just a few minutes. I'll do my best to get to everybody. And hey, if we have to blow through a commercial, then that's what we will do. But I got to take a break, so we'll be back in just a moment. Yes, welcome back to the No Stay Project. We're getting down to the last few segments. I'll do my best to get to, we're going to miss some people, but whoever I miss, I apologize in advance, and we'll get you on the Wednesday broadcast. Somebody says, Mark, any news on the new stuff you found from Spooner? I gave the address, and I linked it in the show when I talked about that, and it's about banking. And no, I have not gotten a copy of it myself, so it's unfortunate it wasn't just put up online so we can all enjoy it, since it is well over 100 years old. Somebody, anyway, said. But he's been on the show before. Home bumming it in California. Welcome back. What can I do for you today?
Oh man, he told me that they don't even have a burden of proof anymore.
Okay, so you're in court. You're in court on a code violation. You're telling me that who said the prosecution doesn't have a burden of proof?
The judge, he said they had a burden of proof at trial, and not until trial did they have a burden of proof.
Did you object and say, so your position is that they don't even have a prima facie burden?
Let's see. I asked him if I had to be informed. He said you have to be informed as charge that the people are alleging against you. I believe you understand that, what that means. And I said, as the prosecution has a burden of proof here today, the prosecution has a burden of proof at jury trial. At jury trial, the prosecution has a burden of proof beyond a reasonable doubt at jury trial. I said, not before. The judge says, there is no burden of proof before. What about stating a case? Does the prosecution have to state a case before? The judge says, with misdemeanor, the complaint satisfies the requirements, and it states 2 pending against you, and you're kind of right that they have to prove each element of each charge at jury trial beyond a reasonable doubt.
Did you use the phrase? Did you use the phrase prima facie burden? Because that's the pretrial. He may have
I'm sorry. I used the phrase. I asked him if this was a mal prohibita, and he said he did not know what that meant. So
he's playing stupid on you.
Huh?
He's playing stupid with you.
Yes. He's not only playing stupid with me, but he's answering questions regarding procedure and not facts the prosecution has provided.
Yeah, see, which you look, he's probably playing off that, because he thinks you don't know what you're talking about. So for everybody, there are certain phrases that we do need to know how things go. And that's why it's even in the demur that they haven't met their prima facie burden. No one is ever going in and saying that they have the burden to prove beyond a reasonable doubt at arraignment. That's idiotic. But they have a prima facie burden which justifies holding you for trial, that they've met the minimum threshold that if these facts are true, if there's even the slightest chance that they're true, shows that there is jurisdiction and justifies holding you over for trial. And it doesn't mean that if you had asked that he would have just magically changed. He probably wouldn't have, but at least it would have been another example of dishonesty and that he's not being fair that you could use against him later if you have to.
He already, the time before this, the city attorney wasn't there, and I motioned to dismiss the allegations against me that he had due to the failure for the prosecution to show up to court. And he said, I don't feel comfortable doing that. And I said, well, why are you not letting my motion continue without the objection of the prosecution? And he said, I would feel comfortable dismissing it. I was like, what the hell? You know?
Well, I'm gonna like objection. Is this proceeding based on how you feel, or is it based on the evidence? What the whole? Oh my gosh! I'm gonna be drinking early today.
Now, you know how I feel. I mean, I was ready to crack last time I was in court. They were offering me some sort of a plea deal, but it was like 3 years probation. I'm like, what the hell? And no fines. And I was like, they don't have any evidence of anything. And now they're telling me they don't even have a burden of proof.
He was being misleading. Grossly misleading. He didn't finish the sentence. If he was being honest in his dishonesty, he would have said they don't have a burden of proof right now. They only have a burden of proof at trial by a reason. That's why he said beyond a reasonable doubt, because he wants to make it look like what he's saying is true. They only have a burden of proof of beyond a reasonable doubt when you walk in for trial. They do, but it's
so prima facie. I should mention.
Yes, because not that it doesn't mean he would have changed, but at least you got him to where he said, "I don't feel comfortable," instead of just outright denying or overruling the demur. A real prick would have just, who's dead set against you, would have just said, "Overruled." End of discussion. This guy is just waffling a bit, and he's saying the typical lies. So what the objection that I would have made would have been objection. So you're just so the appellate panel is clear on this, sir. You're telling me that they don't have a prima facie burden at this point. Yes or no? You pin him down, because once I have to assume here, based on my understanding, my experience with them. Once you say prima facie, their attention is going to prick up. All right, you've now pricked their attention. Now he has to spin some BS. He has to either admit it or deny it, or he has to avoid the question. He could just turn around and say, "I'm not here to answer your questions."
He did that once. Actually, that's how my last hearing ended up, was that he was stating that he's not there to give me legal advice and that he doesn't have to answer my questions. And then they went ahead and threatened me with a 72-hour hold if I did not agree to go to the next hearing in a different department for a competency hearing.
Yeah. Trying to scare
I'm up against that.
I understand, and I tell you, did the prosecution?
Objection, is there something? I'm sorry. It's just running through my head. Objection. Is there something I did that makes you think that I'm an idiot?
Or you could say, objection. What mental defect are you under the impression I have, and what is your formal training to make such a diagnosis, you douchebag? It sounds like he went through the litany with, of avoiding with the legal advice and something like that. Who offered you? Who told you that 3 years probation, no fine? Was that the prosecution or the judge?
The judge.
Wow.
The prosecution was going for a year outside, and because I was wearing shorts, and they don't let me sit in the courtroom while I'm wearing shorts. They only let me come in to do their thing. And the last time they called me in, it was during their break. I'm sorry.
No, okay. So what has the prosecution offered you? And anything other than was it better? Was it at least as good or better than the 3 years probation, no fine?
Yeah, it was 1 year probation.
If they're going to continue playing hardball with you like that, you should consider taking the 1 year. That might be the way to go. Or maybe you could tell them, how about 9 months and we're out the door and you never see me again. Make a counteroffer on the probation.
Okay.
See what they say.
All right.
I hate to, at least keep the option open. Don't slam the door on that as an option.
Well, he asked me if I wanted to take his offer, and I said no.
Okay, well, the judge hasn't overruled the demur yet. That's still in play, so you still have Brady material, and you can still confront him on the lack of evidence, and that might be enough for him to drop it down to less than a year probation, to where you can take that.
I don't mind doing a year of probation because it's not anything that I could avoid the cops for a year.
Okay. Well, all right. Well, that might be. Just keep it as an option. Keep defending I would keep defending myself and use that to try to get more leverage on the prosecution, so they're more. They might be open to a better deal. And if they're not, then you got to prep for trial. But all right. Well, let me know. I'm going to try to get another call in.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mark. I appreciate your work and your help, and I'm sorry I did miss the opportunity to do role play the other day.
That's all right. We'll get you next Thursday.
Yeah, you know it.
All right, appreciate it. Home bumming it in Southern California. I mean, the judge was pulling out the trifecta of lies. And here he's answering questions. I think that due process and being fair to somebody, if they're trying to defend themselves, if there are things that are in the record that he has not had disclosed to him, then having that disclosed is not giving legal advice, and is part of getting a fair trial. If the judge is under the impression that the facts as alleged do meet that prima facie burden, then he should divulge that. But to lie and to divert the attention away and try to mislead somebody by saying this douche move of saying that they don't have a burden of proof until trial, that at trial they have to prove it beyond a reasonable doubt, and ignore the fact that, and he knows or has to know, that there is a prima facie burden that has to be met before they can set it for trial, before they can set it for a pre-trial, is just unfair and is dishonest. We're going to get to another caller. I think we're going to blow through another break here. So hopefully that doesn't ruin the YouTube stream. We're going to get to Mr. Black in Pittsburgh. Welcome back to the show.
How you doing, Mark?
I'm doing well. How you doing today, Mr. Black?
I'm doing fantastic. I want to thank you on educating me on how the system works. One of the first videos that I ever watched was one of your videos. It's beating civil traffic tickets.
Oh, wow.
What I learned from that case, from that video, I win most of my cases that way.
Wow. Well,
I use Article 3 of the Constitution, cases and controversies.
Oh, okay.
And the elements of standing. That's it. So a lot of the nonsense as far as going back arguing with these, I don't even call them judges, I call them administrators, is a waste of time, because they're basically adjudicating for profit. So, if they have a financial interest in finding you guilty, it's really not even a trial when you don't have a victim or a plaintiff. So, the whole thing is a scam. And the fact that they're making money, that makes it like a commercial private entity. So I don't even waste my time on that level. I don't even argue with them. I basically just move it right up to the next court, filing writs and stuff, because They're acting out of their delegation of authority. They don't have no authority to even adjudicate without a plaintiff or somebody swearing to anything. So that's one of the things I just use. I don't even play with them. I don't argue. But under the appellate court, you're strictly adjudicating for profit, and you don't get no fair trial. Hardly like 95% of the time, they're trying to make money off of you.
Yeah, I think it's better as far as our perception of how things work to look at them as just private companies, as corporations, and they're just people, So it's when you look at them just as people or as just another business, then it really starts to dawn on you what's going on and how dishonest the whole thing is. And for those who aren't aware, when we're looking at the case of controversy, we're really looking at subject matter jurisdiction. And so for these basic code violations, their subject matter jurisdiction hinges on whether the laws apply and you violated them, because the legal injury that they are alleging to have standing to have a case or controversy is that you violated their rules apply to us and you violated. That's the legal injury that they are alleging, and they don't have any evidence to back that up. So it makes perfect sense to attack that, because nothing else is, if they can't prove subject matter jurisdiction, nothing else is relevant.
That's correct. It doesn't matter what they're accusing you of. And like I said, I learned that from you. And a lot of things what's going on in politics and everything, Democrats, Republicans. But bottom line is, I don't know. I think I'm the only person saying is that, what we call the United States government is just basically has been overthrown by the judiciary. The president does an executive order, a judge can overturn it and say that's incorrect. If the legislative gives write a law, a judge can say, well, this law means this. The only person can overturn a judge's decision is another judge. So the legal society basically just took over the whole government, period. So there really is no Democrats or Republicans when everybody in all branches of government are attorneys. You have the prosecutor's attorney. You have the attorney general who's an attorney. Everybody in the judiciary is an attorney. Most everybody in the legislature is an attorney.
Well, most of them. A good percentage of them definitely are. You're right about that.
Yeah, but the only person can overturn a judge's decision here in America is another judge. That's it. And you only get maybe 3 shots on a state level, and you got 3 shots, 2 shots really, because chances of your case going to the Supreme Court is, they make a determination if they even want to hear it. They only got 2 shots. And like
at the federal level,
really can overturn.
Yeah, at the federal level, you got 2 shots.
The state level, you get what? You get 3 shots, right?
It depends on where you are. If you're in New Hampshire, you get 2. So that's
what I'm saying. You only get 2 shots. So it's my thing is, my only remedy is we got to vote competent people in as judges, and we need jurors who are competent. And it doesn't matter what they charge you with. If it goes in front of a jury who are educated and they know about cases and controversy and subject matter, they'll never, win any cases. So, like I said, I really appreciate you. And like I said, I learned a lot from your beating civil traffic, subject matter jurisdiction, and standing. It doesn't matter what they're accusing you of. I don't care if it's civil or criminal. They don't have it. There's nothing to talk about, because we get too much caught up into adjudicating, and they haven't proved standing. And when these judges decide when they want to adjudicate anyway, they lose immunity. So these people, you need to sue them.
Yeah, and we've talked about this before, though, Mr. Black, that even though judges legally, if they have no jurisdiction and they never had jurisdiction, they don't have any immunity at all. I posted the cases. I don't remember off the top of my head. But there's a difference between practical remedy and legal remedy, and they're not always the same. In a practical sense, it doesn't matter how much evidence we have. I don't think any of us are going to convince any sitting judge to take a case against another judge. And it doesn't matter if they know him or not. It could be a judge they never even met and never even saw their name. All they have to know when they look at that complaint, judge, dismissed. And then you got to get an appellate court to reverse that. And Abba Fangul is what they're going to tell you.
The thing about it is, that's what we have to do to save the country. All right. Bottom line is like if people know what the law is, you don't vote these guys in here, you're not getting back in office. Bottom line is, well, a lot of times I had people file cases, and when they go to the federal courts aren't the state courts are so corrupt it's unbelievable, you know. But the federal judges, hey, they the law is this. They stick more so to the law and the Constitution than
Depends.
the state courts. State courts are corrupt.
No, at the federal level, I've seen some of the grossest corruption when the IRS, when it's a federal agency, you can bet those federal judges are going to bend over backwards for them. They may not be so much if it's a state government. I'll give you that. I think you're right there. But as far as ways, you're in Pittsburgh, and you say getting people elected, and I know most anarchists would just piss on that, but I'm going to say Larry Krasner. Did you hear me mention Larry Krasner from Philadelphia before?
Well, what about him? No, I haven't heard that.
He was a lifelong civil rights attorney who apparently was so disgusted at the Brady violations and how dishonest prosecutors were. He ran for district attorney a couple of years ago and won. His first week in office, and he said, we're going to take Brady serious. They're not going to be prosecuting drug offenses as much. And 31 prosecutors were left the job. They left the office because they would not comply with his new rules. And that was going to be Brady is serious as a heart attack, and we're going to be honest. And 31 prosecutors left. So that shows
they need to quit. They need to quit. We need to start hiring. We need to start hiring more people who think like us. Why do we hire professional? We don't have professional politicians. We don't need them. Like the governor was never.
No, but I'm running out of. I'm almost out of time, and I can't go over today. But I think if you look at the Krasner, I think people like that should be supported. And I've mentioned here on the show, and Free Talk Live will be starting in 10 minutes. If Ian Freeman was running for office in Keene, New Hampshire, I would definitely support him or someone like him or Derek. Could someone tell me honestly?
You got to find somebody like it. You got to find somebody like him. That's what we have to do. Find somebody like that, and everybody get behind them. Because most of these people, they get in office with like 20,000 votes. There's more than 20,000 people that think like us. You got to get them in there. You got to find somebody.
But even mainstream people, because Larry Krasner was on with the last week tonight. John Oliver. I mean, more people are getting aware, and think groups have been done to specifically to educate people on how important it is to get a good district attorney in there, because someone like Larry Krasner, while there's people are still going to go to jail for code violations, he is doing something, and there's some hope that you can, as part of a multi-pronged, way to get to anarchy, you can see results by getting people elected. So it's not a complete waste of time. Again, at the federal level, I think it's a complete waste of time. But at the local level, I think the Larry Krasners have shown that's true. So maybe Ian next time will run for city council or mayor of Keene. I certainly would use the show to promote that and encourage people to vote for him. Unfortunately, I'm totally out of time. I think we even lost Mr. Black. I do appreciate the call, Mr. Black. Always good to have you call into the show. I think we're totally out of time here. So I apologize to whoever we may have missed today. I will be live on the Wednesday show, and we do the role-playing on Thursday. And so I'm probably going to record this show on Friday. But I'll give that on Friday. I'll give that information out on Wednesday when we get there. But I'll be live on the Wednesday broadcast. And so till then, salud.